Welcome back to the Chaos Club Reads and possibly even spoils. I'm Megan,
And I'm Rachel.
and now let's talk about the fun things, which is what we've been reading. The fun stuff.
Okay.
All right. You want to go first or you want me? What do we want to start with? What we have read. We're going to start with
What we
what we
have
have been
read.
reading.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can start. Okay, I read in the month of April, I read 10 books in the month of April. It's a good reading month for me. The best books. These are the ones I will mention. I finished Alexei Navalny's The Patriots. That was great. Memoir. I think one of my favorite things at the very end of that book, and he talked a lot about like how do you deal with a total like a government, an oppressive regime like Vladimir Putin. And he was like, one of the things he talked about doing was like, when you get into prison, he's like, you don't tell yourself, like, maybe I'll get out next month. He's like, you should play the worst case scenario through in your head. Like, come to terms as quickly as possible with the fact that you'll likely die in the prison. And I thought that was really
Mm,
interesting because that's just so, and he also talks about how religion was helpful for him as well. But like, I think it's really interesting that I don't think it was a huge, it made a lot of sense to me, but I
yeah.
don't think I've ever seen Western Christianity offer any kind of meaningful, and just how ill prepared we are
Yeah.
for any
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of oppressive
Yeah.
regime.
Yeah.
I also read Frederick Bachman's Beartown. That was another big
Okay.
highlight. Loved that
Yeah.
book. I really liked, I love on the nose sort of like reflection on life. I think it's because I grew up evangelical and I got preached to every week. Like it's give me people like RF Kuang's babble is way too on the nose. I'm like, it was good for me. Like, tell me exactly what you think about how terrible this is. Go ahead. I'm used to hearing that. I
You
also,
reminded me to put Beartown. Now that my holds list has opened up, I just put Beartown on hold.
it's good. I really liked it. Like I won't give too much away, but I'll say it's about a hockey town. It's a small town, kind of rural, working class town, and everything kind of centers on hockey. I'm not like I don't like hockey. I know nothing about hockey. I still enjoyed the story. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
like coming of age and multi
Yeah.
multi POV kind of situation.
Okay.
Um, Razorblade Tears.
Okay. Yeah.
My gosh, what a book! What a mind blown. S.A. Crosby, you are brilliant. You star in your crown, whatever I could give you. Like, that was a great. Let me tell you why this is a great book. Number one, first of all, for those of you, okay, first of all, it takes place in Virginia, so you'll appreciate this, Megan. I was like, I didn't even know he had Virginia roots, but like everything he's talking about, like Monument Avenue or like down in Staples Mill, Midlothian. I'm like, what? Like this is all my stomping ground. Like I know all these places, and like he's accurate like on all of them, and like the vibes
Yeah.
of the places. It was just great. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. So, what I love about a story, and I just want to preface this because I think it's important. I read a lot of stories about a lot of different people, about with a lot of different experiences that don't necessarily agree with me, like theologically. I think it's one of the best ways to understand how the human experience might be experienced by somebody that's different than you and learn to develop understanding and empathy for people, even if you don't agree with them theologically. So,
Sure.
with that in mind, okay, so this is about two men, ex cons, whose sons were in a gay relationship together and they were murdered. And these two ex cons kind of team up to find out. The case has kind of gone cold and they're going to go figure out what happened.
Hmm.
And like it's a little, it's a little bit of a vengeance thing. I mean, they don't have the moral and values, they're not going
Sure.
by the books, we'll just say that. But what
Yeah.
was so fascinating about this was these two men were navigating, reflecting on their own like inability to accept their gay sons and
Mm,
some of the like stigma of having a gay son and their own movement toward acceptance of their son's sexuality. And I thought that was a really, really beautiful for
Mm,
people that perhaps aren't as adjacent to the LGBTQ community, I thought it
hmm.
was a really beautiful picture of like watching somebody and experiencing alongside as they're grappling with their own shame of how they rejected their kids and they can no
Sure.
longer seek absolution with their
Hmm.
for what they've done or and restoration
Sure.
because their kids are gone. So I thought that was really, but then they also want to vindicate their children for the atrocity that's been done to them.
Hmm.
And, white supremacy also plays into this. One of the men is black, one of the men is white. So there's an interracial
Okay.
element to the relationship. And then they're navigating some of the complexities. The white man is kind of like sort of like from like more of like a trailer park low income kind of background.
Okay.
And the
Interesting.
black man has a very successful lawn business, kind of is living, a working middle class life now. So there's sort of this navigation of like the two of them dialoguing together and the black man navigating what it means to there's white supremacy is also a huge part of this book, so they're navigating that piece of things. So like he's navigating that as a black man with very real, like it's not veiled, they're like actual white
Hmm.
supremacists in the book. And then
Yeah.
the white man feeling like also navigating like, well, I don't have a lot of privilege, but him learning what it means to have white privilege even though he is lower income socio not economic status than his friend in the book. So it's just really all kinds of really fascinating dynamics I thought were dealt with really and treated very effectively and with a lot of care. And as a
Hmm.
reader who was experiencing that, I really enjoy just like I just love hearing people's stories. I don't, even if it's not my story and it's not something
Sure.
that I'm even that familiar with,
Yeah.
I thought it was done really artfully and beautifully. And I learned a
Absolutely.
lot and the story is really excellently done. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I know it's on my holds list. I've I've got so many books to read.
I'm
Some of
sorry.
them came some of them came all of a sudden on this list. I'm like,
I hate when that happens.
yeah.
And then my other one, which I'll just, well, I did finish Rebel Witch. So I finished Crimson Moth. Uh, Yeah. I
No
actually liked
period
it
blood.
better than the first one. Yeah, obviously because it was good to be witches. She didn't have to have a secret stash of menstruation blood to use to do her little thing. She could just cut,
Yeah.
make her own little scars. I actually enjoyed this one better than the first
Okay.
one. I thought it
It
landed
doesn't
the
always
plane.
happen. It doesn't always happen
It
that you
doesn't.
like the
No.
second. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did. I liked the second one from One Dark Window, Twisted Crowns too
I
better.
know. I was thinking that too. I was like, I was saying that. I'm like, we just read something else.
I know. So I don't know what to do about that. I will say, like, I kind of felt like that it is a duology. I think one of the challenges with duologies is the character development is just inevitably rushed in a duology. And that always is a little bit like, but what were you expecting going into a YA book? Like, it's not really YA. There are some like inappropriate scenes. So I would
Yeah.
call it more like young adult. It's like college, maybe. Like,
Sure.
you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah. I, in the first book on that one, I kept getting so annoyed because the main female character
Yeah.
kept talking about the boy. And I'm like, he's 22 years old and he's been leading a military
Yeah, it's like a
regiment for
general.
how long?
I know. I know.
By all
Yeah,
accounts, as a man.
they definitely were annoying, and Reen was particularly annoying at parts of this book that made me just want to like. Good thing I was listening to it and could was walking, so I couldn't throw my headphones. But like at the end, I felt like it all resolved itself, and
Okay.
it's a good little read. And then my favorite though, I mean, was as you've heard me yap about, is the Buffalo Hunter. Like Stephen Graham Jones, unbelievable premise, so good. The audiobook is unbelievable. Whoever produced that audiobook and scripted that audiobook needs like you deserve
Aren't
all
there
good things in
awards for
life.
audiobooks? Are there
What?
awards? Like, there's
Yeah,
awards for all kinds
there
of stuff
are.
in public.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there
Okay.
are. And this one deserves it should get all the love. There are three narrators. One is an indigenous person, and then there's a female narrator and a male narrator. And there is a part in it. Okay, so they find the journal and then she starts reading it and then the next chapter is the actual journal entry from the man from like a long time ago. They fade her narration into his narration flawlessly, so it was dude, I was literally driving to work and my jaw was like, who came up with this creative decision? Because you deserve all good things in life. And then later in the book, there's a scene where she's like not writing anymore on her laptop. She's like recording, and it literally sounds like she's recording into like a microphone. She's like, oh, I've switched to that, and it's like a little bit like it sounds like a recording.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, dude, such a good book. Buffalo Hunter Hunter. Also, if you get the Barnes and Noble exclusive, I'm just like hyping this book up so hard, but it's so good. Barnes and Noble exclusive not only has sprayed edges, but it also he bases this stuff off of actual events, right? Where there were where indigenous people were massacred by colonialist trappers. He went to the Harvard Library and he went to the Montana Historical Society and he got the primary source material that recorded this massacre and they reprinted it in the back of the book.
Oh,
What a great book. Man. Buffalo Hunter Hunter, Stephen Graham Jones. If you're into horror and
yeah.
vampires, that's your book.
Okay. All right.
Now your
Awesome.
turn.
My turn. My turn. Okay. Well, I am in progress of reading Buffalo Hunter Hunter. And I will say, this is the third book, Stephen Graham Jones. This is the
Good.
third book that I've started of his. And I feel like this one might be the one that clicks because I did try reading, I was a teenage slasher. And I told you about this earlier. I did not enjoy this at
I
all.
loved it.
And it is first person POV. It is very stream of consciousness. And I do think that this is one of those where, like, I've watched horror movies. I don't dislike them, but I do not have the familiarity with the horror film genre that Stephen Graham Jones clearly has, or that other readers would have of this. So
Yeah.
there was just some things that just didn't resonate, even though I understand like the general beats of a horror film, always comes back, miraculous, all of these things. Like I get it. But I just think that there is some, I do think that my lack of like this deep familiarity was part of the problem. The first person narrator didn't really land for me. And then I also tried to read My Heart as a Chainsaw and same
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like I was intrigued by the story, but just had a hard time getting into the narrator and
You
the
really
voicing.
have to trust the process. Stephen Graham
Sure,
Jones is
sure.
a vibe. If you were like,
Yeah,
I want clear plot, you will be disappointed. But
sure. Yeah,
I do think Buffalo Hunter Hunter feels way more structured. I
yeah.
really need you to read it because the third act is like I just need you to read it. The third act
Okay.
is
No,
not
I'm reading it. I'm reading it.
there's no way you will predict what will happen in the third act of this book.
Okay.
There's no
All
way.
right. All right. So then I love I love a good British mystery novel. If it's contemporary, if it's historical, I don't care. I love a good British mystery novel. They are my equivalent of I'm just going to sit down and take a deep breath. So I've read several other of Charles Todd's books, but I finished this one called The Black Ascot. It's just a good novel. It's just a good personal novel. It's set after World War II. The protagonist was a police officer before the war. He was an officer in the war. And a key part of like his experience after the war, he's a Scotland Yard detective, is he's dealing with PTSD, shell shock. He doesn't want anyone to know. And he's also, and this isn't a surprise, you do find this out pretty quickly. He had a very good friend, like an enlisted man in his regiment who was a really good friend, like one of his best friends. But as happens in the military, you get orders from on high that don't make sense, that are demoralizing, that, really not like for the people who have to carry them out are not good orders. But as an
Yeah.
officer, you have to like, you maintain the order. And so the detective officer has to carry out these orders. His friend, enlisted officer, enlisted man, basically leads a small revolt against him. and he has to shoot his friend and his conspirators in the middle of the war. So not only are you dealing with trenches, trench warfare, World War II, now he's dealing with the guilt of having, you know, basically having to kill his friend. And so he hears his friend's voice. Like he's always hearing his friend's voice, like as a conversation, like, as the voice of his intuition, all of this stuff. So it just, I mean, mystery, personal story, personal character arc. I like the story. So read that. I was a
4.2
teenage
stars on
slasher.
Fable. So it got 4.2 stars. It looks like people
Yeah.
generally liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a whole series. So you can kind of read them out of order. Like I don't feel like I miss anything by reading,
Good. Because you know me,
yeah.
I'll just start randomly in the middle of a
Yeah.
series
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. And then, oh, okay, okay. I told you about this trilogy. I didn't go into too much because I wanted to save it for this conversation. The author's name is Marina Lostetter. She previously wrote science fiction, and this was kind of her first foray into fantasy genre. It's a trilogy. It's called the Five Penalties trilogy. The titles are The Helm of Midnight, The Cage of Dark Hours, and The Teeth of Dawn.
Okay.
Holy crap. Like you were just saying about Buffalo. I need you to read these books. I need somebody to read these books so I can talk about it with them. Because the first one starts off like you think it's just a small local mystery novel. Someone I read that it was described as Hannibal meets Mistborn. Now
That's what the
I'll
first line of the copy is here. And I was just about to
yeah.
say, whoever wrote that copy was really smart. That's great cover
So
copy.
I have to reserve judgment until I read Mistborn. I can't speak to that. I will say I don't think it's as dark as Hannibal. Like I just don't think it's like, I was kind of like I read that description and then I read the book and I'm going, really? I don't quite get the Hannibal comparison, but okay. But the world building, so it starts off as the small local mystery. You're kind of introduced to these characters, the different characters, different POV. You're introduced to these kinds of creatures. You're introduced to how the world works or how they're told the world works. And then you just kind of go into like a little bit more. So you start off in city. The second book kind of expands a little bit more of the whole nation, like the whole country. And you kind of, introduced to different
Oh,
regions,
yeah.
different and then the third one, I told you before, I was like, I'm reading these and you're getting religion, you're getting economics, you're getting governance, you're getting world building, you're getting culture, you're getting all
Love
of
it.
this in this. It was so good. And then the third book, then you get this whole different storyline. And you don't know if it's future, if it's past, if it's present. You can't figure it out. And then you're reading the third book, and my jaw just kept dropping.
I love it.
I
I
was like,
love a
are you
draw
kidding
drop.
me? Are you kidding me? So you see how excited I am. This
Yeah,
was
I
so
do.
good. I'm about to read this series. It was so good. I
Wait,
love
is
this.
I'm looking at the copy right now. Is there heist in it as well in the first one? They're saying something about a daring and
A
deadly
little bit.
heist. Heist.
A
I
little
love
bit,
a
yeah.
heist.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff happening. I mean, there's just this multiple layers of like family relationships, of, dealing with power structures, of dealing with what looks like magic, all of this stuff. All of it. All of it. All of it. It was just so, so good. Like, I would love to know how this author kept all of these things straight.
Yeah, maybe she used Notion,
She had to use something. So
related
that
databases.
Yes. So that just loved it. So nonfiction, I think I mentioned earlier, I read The Extinction of Experience by Christina Rosen. So I thought it was just a really good exploration of like the cultural psychological shift to smartphone or device related or device mediated experiences. So this whole thing that we've been talking about. And then, oh yes. So you mentioned earlier in the year that Kindred by Octavia Butler was like your first 5-star read of the book.
Yeah.
I started reading Kindred. Just And I'm willing to try it again at some point. It
You
just
don't have
didn't
to love
resonate
it.
for me. It just didn't resonate for me. But I remembered in college reading one of her other books, so I went back to that, and it's the Xenogenesis trilogy. So it's Lilith, so I forget, but Xenogenesis trilogy, and it deals with far future. Aliens have rescued a small subset of humans. Some sort of global extinction level event has occurred. They specifically rescued Lilith because she has cancer.
Okay.
And this alien race just basically just travels the universe trading. And they just find things to trade. They have this what they call this deep commitment to life. So, pretty much life at any cost. And they won't let a race die out if there's something that they can trade. So,
Okay.
they basically help these humans stay alive and they learn to procreate with them. But they specifically are interested in Lilith because she has cancer, and they specifically like the way the cancer can replicate. And so for them, it's not a disease because they can use it to evolve and mutate. They can graft it
Wow.
into their own genetic material and use it to do whatever they want. So it's just very interesting. On the People Watching podcast, I will be talking with my dear, dear friend Garland Dunlap, and he is really kind of like exploring the benefits or what we can learn from Afrofuturism. And so he was basically saying Octavia Butler is like the queen of Afrofuturist, like ideas, thought. Like if you're gonna, and most people come to Afrofuturism through science fiction. So you cut your teeth on Octavia Butler. And so he brought out, like, if you're reading Octavia Butler, like, she's very, like, she just puts the story out there. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you take away from it, like, she's not telling you to think one way or another. She's just putting the story out there. What you take away from it is basically what you bring to the reading. And so
Yeah.
I just thought it was very interesting because I did a little reading about her writing this trilogy, and basically was like, Reagan had just gotten elected, Cold War was going on, and she said, "I was just listening to these people talking, and I was like, what in the world is going on?" And so she's trying to process, like, her own experiences in this time and place with this kind of story. So I just thought that was some interesting background. So I really liked the Xenogenesis trilogy. That was my let me see, I'm trying to think. Anthropology, morality, like, how do you have relationships with other and are you getting coffee?
I am. Sorry, podcasters. My husband brings me iced
Yeah.
coffee every day
Love
because
it.
he's awesome. I'm actually not
Love it.
apologizing at all. I have an amazing husband.
And I just like for me, I kind of was like, exploring the question or the idea is genetics destiny. And so, that was just one of the things that came up for me. So I really like that. And then I read, okay. Oh, there's two books. Okay. I'm just going to mention two more books. I read The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley.
Yes.
Loved that one. Have you started it yet?
Not yet, but I did buy it. I
I
have
know.
it.
Yes. Okay. So I really like that one. I think that's going to be one of my tops for the year so far. I really enjoyed it. I loved the I loved the narrator. I loved her voice. I loved how she's kind of trying to navigate like her own, like, I think, and it's kind of like auto, like autobiographical because the author herself is, I think, Cambodian and British. And so
Okay.
kind of dealing with some of her, like her mother, or like her parental legacy of Cambodian refugee. How do you navigate? How do you assimilate? And how do you become, part of this, you know, country that's not yours, but you're born there. So it is
Mhm.
yours. So how do you navigate some of this? And also it's a time travel story. And so I really love, so I took English. I studied science fiction with a woman who was like absolutely insistent that there were distinct ways that you could tell a science fiction from a fantasy story. The science fiction was like, you can't have the story without this core novum of a specific kind of technology. So I think the Ministry of Time really does meet the criteria of a science fiction story because you wouldn't have the story that you have without this technology enabling time travel. You just, We don't get into the hows and why fors of how this technology works. It's not necessary. But she ends up meeting this survivor of like one of these failed Arctic explorations in the 817 or 1800s. And so it's all about the relationship. She's basically one of them, the minder of these people that they kind of extract from the historical timeline and bring forward. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Super interesting. 10/10 recommend. And then I literally just finished this book. It's the second in a series. I don't know how long the series is going to be, but the author's name is Robert Jackson Bennett. The first book is called A Tainted Cup. The book that I just read is called A Drop of Corruption. Oh,
Okay.
this was so good. This was so good. I remember really liking the first book, and it was the kind of thing where it's like, I didn't go over the moon about the first book, but as soon as I saw that the second book was available, just an instant put on hold, like, gonna read it. And again, fantasy story, world building, like, you have people who can do certain things because they're augmented because of this. They have these invading creatures called leviathans and don't fully know how it all works, but the leviathan blood, leviathan biological matter can be adapted and made to augment humans. So you have
Oh,
some where
interesting.
they have perfect recall. And so they go into like, that's this main character. He goes into like a detective. It's a detective. So you have this mystery layered in this fantasy world. And it's all about like, what does justice look like in a world where, you know, the system is too big? Like how do you deal with a drop of corruption? And that's why you have these people with like, thankless, invisible job of solving this little tiny mystery in the back of nowhere, because that's one way that you prevent this drop of corruption. I had sent you a text with a screenshot where it's like, somewhere in the back of our minds, Sir Terry Pratchett said that everyone, even the most, educated, wealthy person has this blank spot in their minds where they're like, kings, what a good idea.
You know, I cackled when I saw that. That was good.
So this whole story is about this like, hmm, kings, what a good idea. And everything that unfolds from this
I think
sprawling autocracy.
I think I've heard of him because he did the was it Foundry Side or whatever, which I feel like
Yes,
I've heard
yes.
of that before. So I've not read
I read
anything.
the first two of those books,
Uh-huh.
and then I just remember at the time I had started going into the third one, and it was just such a grim, depressing story. I was like, I can't take
It's
anymore. I
fair.
can't do it anymore. But I really, and there were some things. Did you see the movie Annihilation?
Yeah, I've read the book too. Well,
Okay,
actually, I haven't seen the book. I have not seen the movie. I have read the book. I'm sorry.
okay. Well, there were the content that like a lot of the stuff that happens in A Drop of Corruption, it just reminded me so much of the mutations that happen in
Yeah, it's
Annihilation. So that
definitely
was just an
yeah,
interesting,
connection.
like association for me. So yeah. So
I
so
do
that's what I have read.
I do have one I'm currently reading that I want to talk about, and I realize I have real quick that I'm in the middle of it. I'll talk about next week, but it relates to one I forgot to say I read that I don't think I talked about. This book, Chain Gang All
Oh.
Stars.
Mm,
This is okay. So the other one that I didn't mention was I finished Sunrise on the Reaping. I think last time we recorded, I was like in the middle of it and I finished it. That was
yeah.
a 5-star read for me. That was unbelievable. That is the by far, in my opinion, like that Hunger Games for this particular moment was amazing. A huge commentary on propaganda, but it's very experiential. So if you've not read the other, you have to read the first three Hunger Games, but you're gonna read it and your jaw's gonna drop because you're gonna be like, oh, cool, 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 cool. I see what you're doing here, and I didn't ever
Sure,
catch
sure.
what you were doing.
Yeah.
This is like an adult version of Hunger Games. It is a is like in the future, and they have started this system called CAPE, a criminal action penal entertainment, a highly popular, highly controversial profit raising program in America's increasingly dominant private prison industry. So they take prisoners and you can get your sentence commuted, or not even commuted sometimes, but like you can get time off or whatever if you participate,
Okay.
but you'll often die in these
Okay.
arena like, or like more of like a Roman, you know, gladiator kind of situation.
Sure. Sure. I was gonna
Very,
say this
very,
sounds like Total Recall too. So
this is great. This is a great book so far. I'm about halfway
okay.
through.
Okay.
Oh, are we doing what we're going to read?
Yeah, we're gonna do what we're reading now. Let's move into what
Okay.
we're in process we're gonna read.
Okay, so that's what I'm reading right now. I'm still like, oh my gosh, I for like 2 months have been in the middle of Empire of Storms with the Sarah J. Maas, and I just can't finish it because I know. Here's my problem. I'm finally at part two. I know everyone says the ending is crazy, and I just like the ending of this book. Like they're like my jaw dropped, and I'm like, I'm afraid I don't have time to commit because once I get sucked in, I'm going to be like so sucked in, and I don't have time to get sucked in for like 6 hours, and there's no audiobook, so I can't like do it in tandem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm still reading that Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I've never read any
Okay.
Sally Rooney.
Any-
She wrote like Normal People and some other books, and I've always
mm,
wanted to read her, and it was on
yeah.
sale, and I bought it.
Yeah.
Um, I have not finished this book. I'd already started it. I'm probably like a quarter of the way
Oh yeah.
through.
Yeah. Is
So
this
I'm
the
gonna
one you were
finish.
sending me like screenshots at one point? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Nyber essay in this is crazy. Like you're just I basically just made me want to give up on life. I mean, this is an essay written 100 years ago, and you're like, oh, cool, nothing's changed. Cool, cool, cool. We're like
Yeah. Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
devolving into.
History
Uh,
doesn't repeat, but it sure do rhyme.
I'm really hoping I can start the Wayward Pines series by
I
Blake
started
Crouch.
reading that too. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've read Dark Matter. A lot of people love Dark Matter. I didn't love Dark Matter. I thought it was like fine.
Yeah.
It was like cool, whatever, but like I'm hoping that with Wayward Pines it's a little I enjoy it more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then this book is called I've been wanting to get to by Kate Hanch. It's called Storied Witness: The Theology of Black Women Preachers in 19th Century America, published by Fortress
Hmm,
Press. Yeah. I think
nice.
this is going to be like a really helpful resource to just like have on the shelf, but I'm really excited to get into this. And then I had
Mhm.
another friend of mine recommend this book to me. I don't know if you've ever read this by Dan Simmons. Have you ever read Hyperion?
I haven't read that one, but I've read others of his books. Yeah.
Okay, so that's also on my list this month, so we'll see what I get to. I'm assuming I won't get to Tower of Dawn and Throne of Glass because I can't freaking finish Empire of Storms. And then from Libby, what I have checked out right now is this book called All Fours by Miranda July. It's a let me find the summary real quickly. It's I think it's more like it's like a lit fic, but I think it's like pretty weird. A semi-famous artist on a cross-country road trip from LA to New York, and she's like perimenopausal. So yeah, the
Okay.
novel
That
follows a
sounds fun.
45-year-old perimenopausal woman who, after having an extramarital affair during a road trip, has a sexual awakening. I think it'll be really bizarre, but like I don't know. It kind of had me at perimenopausal, honestly. I was like, okay, I'm here for that. I don't get a lot of books about perimenopausal women. I'll read it.
Sure. Yeah. We're heading in that direction anyway. I'm
I'll let
there.
you. I'll let you know if it's any good. Anyway, what are you gonna read this month?
So I'm still working my way through Deacon King Kong by James McBride. Did we talk about this? Did I talk about this? So, yeah.
No,
So,
but I'm
one of my
curious your thoughts.
yes, so one of my best friends, she had posted on her Instagram story a couple weeks ago that she had read another of James McBride's books for her book club. And she said, this is the second one that we read. And she goes, both of these books, I get about halfway through. And she said, I'm like, I think this book is for me. And then I finish it and I love it. I was just like, well, that is a super interesting review. I am curious now. So I got Deacon King Kong. It's set in like the late 60s, early 70s, like low income housing, like black neighborhood in Brooklyn, I think, or New York, New York. And it's just about this guy, his wife dies. He's basically a drunk and he's just very much lost in grief and, has just always kind of floundering his way through life. And he ends up shooting this drug dealer. The drug dealer lives, and so it's this whole story. And it's just funny. Like, I love I love the tone of voice. It's a third person narrator. It's very, there's just a lot of asides. There's a lot of commentary. So, like, it's just one of those things where, and like a couple of well chosen sentences, you really get the character. Even if it's a small side character, like, you can see this character in full living color.
I
And
love
I
it.
love that.
I
Yeah.
love that too.
I'm working through The Buffalo Hunter. I am also working through Becoming the Pastor's Wife by Beth
Oh
Allison
yeah.
Barr.
I have that
Yes,
too. I'm gonna read it soon. She's so cool.
yes. So I read her first, what's the name of her first book? I forget. Yeah,
Biblical womanhood. Is it rediscovering
yes,
or
yes, yes, yes.
biblical womanhood?
So Becoming the Pastor's Wife is basically a look at contemporary conservative American evangelicalism. The and it's basically the thought that when complementarian, which says that man is the head of the household, he's the head of the church, all of this stuff. Women are to be in submission to the man, and women cannot hold any positions of leadership or authority over a whole congregation or over the family. Like they can teach other women, or they could possibly teach small children. And I'm just here hearing one of my professors in seminary who you didn't never got a lecture, you got a sermon. And he would start off quiet, and then you could hear him down the hall. And I just remember him going, my goodness, if women are so dangerous, why are you putting them with the children? But,
It's a great question.
but so Beth Allison Barr is talking about this thought in this kind of culture and in this kind of ministry environment that the only route for ministry for women is to be married to the pastor. And she's going through the history. She's specifically referencing like a lot of medieval women and just looking at both the biblical record and the historical record to show the evolution of how this was not the only way that women have served. Women have served in positions of authority over whole religious communities, over families, and have done work and have deserved to be called pastor and minister in their own right, not as being part of marriage. And so she's just working through that. And I was telling you before we started recording, Rachel, that I'm double reading this because I'm reading this as someone who has grown up with this, is super familiar with this world, with this perspective, with this way
Yeah.
of thinking. I mean, I don't know if I ever told you this, Rachel, but I remember I was young. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I made 3 vows to myself. I said I was never going to be a secretary. I was never going to marry a man in the military, and I was never going to marry a man in the ministry. I was 7, and I made this vow to myself. So that
Oh
tells you
wow.
like how pervasive and like how like even my 7-year-old self is kind of like WTF, huh? But we're going to do this. But and then so I grew up with this. So I'm double reading as someone who's like, this is just infuriating because it's not surprising to me. But I'm also reading because I think that Barr and her editors and her whole team that worked on this book have just done a fantastic job of presenting this very simply, very clearly, in a way that if someone is curious but they don't know and they're kind of like in their context going, I feel like something's off. I feel like you know, there's something not wrong, not right, but I don't know what's going on. This is a great book that I think is going to be really accessible for a lot of people. It's not going to make people happy,
Yeah.
but because it's going to challenge some very long held cultural assumptions. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a really good, accessible book. And I'm especially curious once you read it because you have been a pastor's wife.
I have been a pastor's wife. I was for a long time. I mean, I got away with a lot of stuff because I was a pastor's wife. Like that a lot of other women wouldn't get away with. And like you can't just like get rid of me. Like that was the thing. I think one of the biggest things is like you can kind of be a squeaky wheel. And like if you're a squeaky wheel and leadership's not a fan of you, they can just box you out. But the proximity thing, there's only so much you can do to box out somebody who's married to someone on
Yeah,
staff. So
sure,
like
sure.
I think that that was one of the things that like I realized I was able to get away with saying a lot more stuff than other people were able to get away with who were
Mhm.
women. And it's stupid, like in the sense that now I get paid to say stuff and like bring up problems and be like, whoa, like, hey guys, like, is this a great idea? And nobody's like, ah, maybe you should have said that in a nicer tone. Like everybody's just,
Right.
and you realize once you get out of that world, you're like, oh, this is actually really unhealthy and toxic. And now I have like a lot of weird stuff to unlearn about like the ways I interact with people. And like maybe my
Yeah,
conflict aversion is like not, it is like literally was like externally foisted upon me because of weird patriarchal stuff. But
yeah.
all that to say, I'm looking forward to it. I heard her speak recently and it was so great. And I think that the fact that we have different disciplines, I think a lot of people look at like the haters out there that are like going to critique what Barr is doing is they're going to be like, well, she's a historian, she's not an exegete. And I just think it's really fascinating that they're like literally writing off somebody who is a credentialed historian, is doing like actual
Yeah,
historical work here.
yeah,
um
yeah.
and at what point, like, I wouldn't say that one discipline is going to be better at informing somebody than another discipline is. I think
Sure.
all of these disciplines have some really interesting
Yeah.
things to say about what God is up to and like what scripture says and how we understand scripture. And certainly like
Mm.
anybody that's being responsible, academically responsible, understands that these disciplines are in dialectic with one another. So I'm really thrilled. I'm not a historian, so I can't wait. And I think
Yeah,
that's where like
yeah,
Brazos really shines as an imprint. Like they're really good at putting stuff out there. I think that is very accessible to people, but
yeah.
is not it's not simplistic, right?
Right.
This
Yeah,
is really
yeah,
heavy
yeah,
hitting. It's somebody who's really done the work, and so I
yeah,
can't wait
yeah.
to jump
She
in.
does mention our lady Sandra Glahn. So Sandra Glahn
Mhm.
makes an appearance in there.
I
So
saw her the other day too at the same conference and had a great conversation with her.
cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. And literally just checked it out this morning. John Gwynn's Shadow of the Gods. So
Okay.
that's coming
Yes.
up.
Okay. 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 Now we can talk because I need to know. I need to know. Do I have a reading comprehension problem? That's the big question that we're going to find out because Matt had no trouble following along. And I was like, I need a buddy. I need a buddy as I'm reading these books because every Norse name makes no sense to me. And I have no. I'm like, did we already hear about this person? And then I can't pronounce them correctly. And I sound very, very ignorant
Yeah.
of the whole
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Sometimes I think that because sometimes I get really confused when an author has like two female characters and one's Sophia and one's Sylvia. And sometimes I get them, I end up like, who am I reading about? But I also think that that's a problem of characterization. It's like, have you defined this character enough
that's
that I
fair.
know who you're talking
Yes.
about?
Yes. This is where I think freaking Brandon Sanderson lands this so well. Like, I was not confused. I understood what was going on. And I just want to point out
Yeah.
that's a big deal. Sometimes I think, let me just say this little caveat to people. If you're looking for a book editor, sometimes having the smartest editor, just putting a word out there for all of those like not as smart editors like yours truly here, sometimes having a really smart editor is not a great thing because
Mm.
then they already are able to fill in the gaps of what it is you're
Right.
doing. And your book is not actually going to be written in a cadence or delivered in a way that is accessible to the non initiated. And that's fine if that's what you want with your book. You're like,
Right.
I'm
Right.
trying to write for a niche of people. But sometimes having someone that's really connected to like the everyday man, like they can really tell
Mm.
you when you kind of are missing the boat. What you need is an honest editor. And you need
Yes. You,
somebody
you need
who,
someone who's willing to ask the quote unquote stupid questions, the
dude,
obvious questions.
so many times when I'm writing reports, I'm like, maybe I just am ignorant. Total legitimate possibility here.
Yeah.
However, I do not understand what's going on right now. Can you help me?
You know, I am not like sitting here. dying on a hill of gendered anything. I do think that sometimes there are books written by some men for certain men.
That is true. I want to know if you think that about John Gwynn. I'm very curious. Was this for men? I don't think there are
Sure.
two female characters though in the book. And
Uh-huh.
are you going to get annoyed that he calls the mind the thought cage? Like many of
I mean,
us might have
someone
gotten.
sounds a little strange, but
Is
okay.
that too weird for you? Does that take it over an edge where you're going to just get totally distracted that they call it the thought cage? And now I
Fair.
think actually
Yeah.
we should just all call it the thought cage from now on. Like, let's just take that language and bring it into 2025. Use your thought cage. I'm going to start saying that to my
You're the
kids.
thought cage.
Use your thought cage.
Right. I'm just kind of like, but, my, I have a lot of weapons in here. Not just a cage. It's a percolator. It's a petri dish.
It's something. It's something. We have so I feel like this year, I just want to say that this year has just been a great reading year so far. I feel like you and I have read a lot of really good books
We
so
have.
far.
Yes, I think so. And I think it's been even more fun that we've been talking about it. Like to have
Yes.
this, like I've been keeping just little notes for myself. Like every week I'll just try to review like something that I've read, watched, or listened to that just stands out, just for
Yes.
myself. But it's just
Yes.
helpful for me to kind of like have this thought in the back of my mind. I know I'm going to get to talk about this with somebody, and that
Yes.
just adds to it.
Yes, I know. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk to Megan about this this book or this movie I watched because like it's great. I think everyone and the takeaway would be like, I mean, for all of our listeners out there, if you ever have a book or anything that you want to talk about or you want us to review and talk about, like we're open
Yeah.
to ideas if you guys wanna
Yeah. We're
offer
not the Chaos
suggestions.
Club for nothing.
Yeah, we're anything. There's no bounds to what we will read. We will read it all.
I feel about books the way I feel about movies. I'll watch a bad one. I'll watch a bad movie as long as there's like some little kernel of something that's interesting that it makes me go, hey, what's going on here? I will.
And I try not to crap on books because, like, as somebody who's an editor, I know how hard authors work on books. Like, it's really
Yes.
hard to write a book. So, most of the reviews, like, I didn't review all 10 books that I read because some of them I didn't enjoy as much. And I don't want to undercut the fact that maybe the book just wasn't for me. It's not that it's a
Sure.
bad book. And there's
Hmm.
there's enough haters on the internet that like they will crap on somebody's book. Like I don't need
Yeah.
to add to that pile on. There was one particular book that I won't say that I read. It was a YA book, or maybe even more like a children's book, actually, is chapter book. And I just did not resonate with the main character at all. But there were
Yeah.
also some cultural differences, and a lot of the culture in the book
Uh,
was not my culture. And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
wondering if her timidity and her quietness was because I was like, be angry, stop being a weird, like stop like was that a personality clash because her sister I quite
Mm,
liked, or was there a culture clash that I just didn't understand? And I think it's
sure. Sure.
important, like when we get on here and when I talk about books, my philosophy to talk about books is like that book wasn't a bad book, but it might just not
Hmm.
have been for me. It was executed
Sure.
well for what
Sure.
it was,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think I
We also need to emphasize like we can read in a way that recognizes and appreciates the craftsmanship and also recognizes that it's just not to our taste, or it's
yeah,
just not to our aesthetic, or it's just not to what we enjoy about a story, and those 2 things can coexist quite well.
yeah,
Like, I was a teenage slasher, I can look at that and go, "He was doing some amazing stuff in
yeah,
that writing." Like, the craftsmanship of that and his knowledge of writing and of the horror film genre, fantastic. Appreciate it for that. And I can also say, just, like, it wasn't for me.
yeah. I think that's really important to be able to say about books because it makes you, I think, a better reader and honestly a better editor. I mean, in terms of like my craft of my job, like my job, and I say this a lot of times, like my job is not to just find books that I like, right?
Right.
My job, if I did that, I would be failing as an acquisitions editor. My
Yeah.
job is to know the readers of the company that I work for who likes to
Mhm.
read our books and know what they want to read
Right.
and what they
Right.
need to read to help them.
Right.
And then making sure I'm finding books for the whole portfolio. And sometimes that means acquiring books that aren't necessarily like something I would naturally pick up, but that I
Mhm.
understand our readers enough to know like, hey, this is something that will be important to them. This is addressing problems that are important to these
Right.
readers, right?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
and I think that we would do a really good job with this book and like
Right.
shaping it, crafting it, and helping it get out into the
You
marketplace. I think that makes me a more generous. I think being an editor actually makes me a more generous reader now because I know how hard it is to write, and that just because a book isn't your taste doesn't mean it's not a good
right.
book. And that's
Yeah. Yeah.
important.
Yeah. And I think hopefully that is, the conversations that we're having are just helping us refine kind of both what we enjoy and what we appreciate. Sometimes
Yes.
those align, sometimes those don't. And I love that like I'm reading things like I'm trying to read things like I am deliberately trying to read more literary fiction, which is not a genre that I ever read. But I'm also like, I could branch out. So I don't know when I will do this, but I really love the work of the artist Vincent van Gogh. And I am just always like curious. Like I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a little project this year. I'm just gonna start reading about him. I'm gonna start reading about his life. Cause I think that the relationship that he had with his brother Theo sounds like one that's just really tender and it was like a great source of comfort for him. But
Mhm.
I'm also curious, like as someone he dealt with depression, with mental health, and I mean, he eventually killed himself, so that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But, I'm just like, I don't know if I would have had that thought before our project of just saying, let's just let's just go read. Let's just go branch out.
Well, you should know not to pitch for my own company, but we do have a book called Learning from Henry Nouwen and Vincent van Gogh. So maybe
Oh,
a portrait
maybe that
of
will
the
be.
compassionate life. So maybe that's a book you would want to read.
Maybe. Maybe I know someone who could get it to me.
Maybe someone that can send you a copy. I'll see what I can do. I'll talk to her and her other persona and see if she's willing to send you a
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah.
But yeah, reading
Um,
is just really fun, and I think especially in this current historical moment where like a lot of stuff feels really overwhelming and like this feels to me like a really great mix and a light sort of in the darkness because I think it's great that we're going through something like surveillance capitalism and forcing ourselves to kind
mhm,
of get into this really heavy stuff
mhm,
and look at it and say, okay, like, what does this mean? Like, do we even understand what the heck is going on here? What does this mean for our lives as Christians? Are we tracking correctly? But then also like just fun books too, books that really like are just here to help us enjoy this short little life that we have. I mean, I would like to think I'd read every book on my shelf before I die, but I doubt at this point that's good to
Well,
happen. So I'll get through as many
I
as I
just always
can.
think of the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon where Calvin is just like thoroughly dejected and, and the comment on the caption is like, God put me on this earth to accomplish so many things before I die. Right now I'm so far behind, I will never be allowed to die.
I know, for real, for real.
That's kind
Oh,
of on my book list.
I did want to show readers. I think I got three, four more books from on Independent Bookseller Day. And if anybody didn't buy books on Independent Bookseller Day, you can still buy books from indie bookstores and don't shop at Amazon. This is my little PSA. Do not shop at Amazon, especially at Independent Bookseller Week. I understand that their books are cheaper and I know it's really good, but you also have a public library and that's great too. But they are intentionally trying to run sales that undercut independent bookstores on like the days that they're doing big bookseller, I want to talk about greed, like big bookseller, independent bookseller days where they're trying to get people to go to independent bookstores. They're running these massive deep cut sales because they're trying to undercut independent booksellers. And that's really crappy and it's really greedy. And they don't even need to do it because they don't even need books. Did you all know that the majority of sales on somewhere like Amazon is not from their books? It's from their Amazon Web Services. They don't need books. They don't need books at all. And yet, they still find ways to undercut independent bookstores. But our local bookstore was nice and full, and I had to stand in a nice long line to buy my books. But this is what I bought: Strong Men
Okay.
by Ruth
Okay.
Ben Ghiat, Mussolini to the Present.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I, yes, I got Stephen King's If It Bleeds, which is a collection of stories. I got this one because Mike Flanagan is making a movie called The Life of Chuck, which is one of the short stories in this book, and this was on
Gotcha.
clearance.
Okay.
Per your recommendation, Ministry of Time, I will be picking it up. They just released the paperback recently, so yay for that. And then another Stephen King, Billy Summers, which I've not read,
Okay.
but I'm a
Okay.
big Stephen King girly, so as many people know, I read a lot of horror and I read a lot of Stephen King. So
What was the Doctor Sleep, the movie? I read that. Or no, no, no. I didn't read the movie. Oh my gosh.
you
Probably
saw the
should
movie.
wrap.
I actually have not seen the movie yet.
Okay. So I know nothing about the book. I did not realize it was a sequel to The Shining.
Oh,
I
you didn't
just
know
went
that?
in. I just went.
Have you
So
seen The
The Shining?
Shining?
No.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I
Okay.
know. I
Okay.
know.
Okay.
We could probably go on for another hour. We should. I will
I
say
know.
this: The Shining is so embedded in American culture that I know enough about it that I was able to go into Doctor Sleep. But I just kind of like one day randomly watched Doctor Sleep. I really liked it. It was a very good
I'm
movie.
I've waited a long time to watch Doctor Sleep because I was waiting for my husband to watch The Shining because he had never seen it. The cool thing, I've got to say this because I'm a big Mike Flanagan fan. I'm his biggest fan in the whole world. Is that so? Stanley Kubrick's take on The Shining, right? Sorry, I'm getting so nerdy. Stanley Kubrick's take on The Shining, okay, it was very, very different than Stephen King's book, right? Particularly Jack Nicholson's portrayal of Jack Torrance and the Jack Torrance of the book. The Jack Torrance of the book is a much more multifaceted and much more, I would say, like likable character. He's much more
Yeah,
layered.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
let's be real. Jack Nicholson will always be Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, like now everyone knows the movie The Shining is like iconic in terms of its, but in terms of like the feel, and historically it's been very well known that Stephen King was not a huge fan of the Kubrick adaptation. Enter Mike Flanagan, okay, doing the adaptation of Doctor Sleep. So he has to be true to both the vision of the Kubrick movie and the story in order to do this really well. And as somebody who's read both The Shining and Doctor Sleep, I think both books are excellent. They're so fascinating because he wrote them at such different points in his own like dealing with addiction. And so The Shining is
Hmm.
so much about addiction and the shame of addiction and things like that.
Hmm.
And of course, The Shining is so much about the shame of addiction as a parent, right? And what does it mean to be a
Sure.
parent and protect your children? I cried in The
Sure.
Shining. I mean, like seriously, it's a great book. Like the final scene between Danny and Jack is like it's like worth the whole book in spades. Okay, but Doctor Sleep is like a very different take on the world, on forgiveness, on healing, and it's the story
Hmm.
right of the young Danny Torrance grown up and his
Yeah.
navigation of addiction, right?
Yeah.
Um, and Rose the Hat is like so scary and she's so evil and bad. Anyway, I really want to see the movie because I've heard amazing things, but I've heard that Mike Flanagan navigated those two creative visions very effectively and made a movie
So,
that.
so, I mean, going in completely cold, having familiarity of the movie,
Mhm.
you know, at least it's omnipresent now
Yeah.
in, you know,
Yeah,
American
it's a
culture.
cultural staple,
So
yeah.
I had enough familiarity with that to be able to watch Doctor Sleep and go, I feel like I'm in the world, I'm in the story, like I understand the character arcs that are happening here. I understand the stakes that are going on. And you know, I mean, you and I have watched all the Mike Flanagan that we could
Oh my
get our
gosh.
hands on.
Love
And
him.
I think he does such a great job of a genuine emotional climax that isn't manipulative or sentimental.
Oh yeah, the stakes are real. The stakes are
Yeah,
very real
yeah,
and it's not contrived at all.
yeah, yeah, and I think he does a good job with that in Doctor Sleep, so
I can't
but
wait.
I will be curious what you think of that, having your familiarity with all of that more than me.
Yeah, I cried in Doctor Sleep, the book too. I pretty much cry in every book. And people are like, why are you crying in horror books? Because like horror forces you to engage in a controlled manner with really ugly things in life, right? Danny Torrance is not a good man in Doctor Sleep. He has baggage, okay? And he does some not great things in that book in terms of the ways that he doesn't take responsibility for the needs of others who are powerless around him.
Mhm.
And it's this sort of like move into like, how does one seek redemption? How does one get rid of or heal from the ghosts of your past? It's a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
story of
yeah,
forgiveness.
yeah.
There's this beautiful moment in the book, which, like, I mean, I don't want to give too much away. And I'm a big Flanagan fan because he's recurring cast members. I mean, like everybody that he uses on his cast are always just like so great. I mean, there's gonna be lots of returning ones for Life of Chuck as well, plus some newbies like Tom Hiddleston. So that's gonna be really fun to see Tom Hiddleston in
He's
a
been
Mike Flanagan
thing
movie.
for a while.
You know,
Tom Hiddleston's been kind of laying low for a while. I
after
was a
Loki,
little worried. I was a
after
little worried
Loki,
there for a while because, his long dark wig was gonna get typecast because it seemed like every film he was doing required that. Have you seen Only Lovers Left Alive?
no, should I?
Oh, yes, yes. It's Tilda Swinton
Oh, I love Tilda
and Tom
Swinton.
Tom Hiddleston and Mia, I can't remember her name. And who's the kid that played the Russian on Star Trek, the Star Trek reboots?
Yelchin, he died.
Yes,
No.
I know. He's in
Don't make
this.
me cry. He's in Troll Hunters too, which is like a big family favorite. If you've never watched Troll Hunters, it's Del Toro. What's his name?
Guillermo del Toro?
Guillermo del
Oh,
Toro. Yeah. He
okay.
Oh my gosh, listen to me. Oh, you
Guillermo
gotta
del
go
Toro
first.
loves to work with Tom Hiddleston. Just saying. But Jim Jarmusch did Only Lovers Left Alive. And I'll just say it's a vampire movie and leave it at that.
Only Lovers Left Alive.
Yes.
I'm looking it up right now. I like vampires.
Yes. It's not your typical vampire movie, but it deals with what you would expect a vampire to deal with was how do you stay alive when you're immortal? Like
Yeah.
how do you stay alive to the world when you're immortal?
Good question.
And Tilda Swinton's character loves books. Tom Hiddleston's character loves music, and so we just go from
It looks like it's on Pluto, so I might be able to watch it for free. I don't know. I'll see.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, are you going to go see? I mean, the last big pop culture thing coming up is Marvel's Thunderbolts. Are you going to go see it?
Probably not.
I've
But
heard that it's I saw somebody who I respect in I forget what her real name is, but she goes by Stoobs on TikTok and she does movie reviews and I really like her. She said she went to the premiere. Obviously, I think there was like a review ban, so or like it was like the embargo before like you could say anything bad about a movie, but she said that she really liked that it felt very, although I do disagree with her. Like she was like, it feels like they're giving like stylistic creativity to the directors again, like, and that hasn't happened for a while. I was like, no, like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness felt very Sam Raimi, and I think Chloe Zhao's Eternals felt
yeah.
very
Oh
Chloe
yeah.
Zhao. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the only one that really didn't feel very like stylized, in my opinion, was Ant-Man
Hmm.
Quantumania. And honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, I do think Captain America, the Brave New World was, like it felt a little bit. But that
Yeah.
being said, So yeah, great. All the better if it feels stylized. But she compared it to Iron Man 3. And I agree. I think Iron Man 3 is also another very stylized one that has a very like director heavy sort of vibes to it. And I like when they do that a lot. I want it to feel
Yeah.
stylized. I don't want it to feel like it went through AI and it was like
Yeah.
just like the lowest common denominator. Like I want to be able to watch a movie and be like, "Oh, I see so and so's hand in it." I that to me is really that's like the most interesting kind of like to me Marvel is the conglomerate version of like the riffs on the internet off of something,
Sure, sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
put all that money in and let each of the riffs, i.e. movies, like be stylized in a way that I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is weird," like Sam Raimi, and there's
Yeah.
like weird like
Yeah. And I mean, if we're just going to talk about stylized Marvel movies that are that are shaped by the director, can we just say Black Panther?
mm,
Ryan
circling
Coogler
all the way
again.
back around to Ryan Coogler. Yeah, like yes, Ryan Coogler, great example.
Oh,
Which
and
is
their
really
friend
funny,
Garland like holds that up as like Afrofuturism.
dude. Black Panther's so good, and like honestly, like sometimes it really upsets me, and like sometimes like I don't even mean this, and like I mean this legitimately. It hurts my heart that God was like during COVID okay for Chadwick Boseman to die because like I feel like what's so painful about that is that finally there was a different kind of superhero and a
Yeah.
superhero that was telling a different kind of story because he
Yeah.
really was the first like in my opinion like that was like there was different kinds of stories being told after like the first Iron Man but like Thor Guardians, like, yeah, those are different, but this was the first real, I think, grounded, stylized story that
Hmm.
was telling this story of like real sort of like geographic roots and like what that meant and my and
Yeah.
Killmonger again
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan whoop whoop he's
Yeah.
great like
Yeah.
and honestly that was I think I saw it before I saw Creed like I think that actually might have been one of the first things I ever saw Michael B. Jordan in was this Killmonger and like
Oh, okay.
and I that like really stuck with me. The Kendrick Lamar soundtrack, like the whole thing, like felt like oh, what I really appreciate about that movie was that it felt like this is not my movie. Like I'm not
Right.
like this is not my story. But I did feel like because it was a Disney conglomerate movie that there was a space for to say like hey you can participate in the sense that you can witness what is
Yeah. Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
and make
I think
sense
it's
of
a
it.
really good example of having a very specific audience in mind
Yeah.
and writing for that and creating like wanting to speak to that audience, wanting to create something for that audience, but also just recognizing that even though you're getting very specific with your story, with your audience, all that, you're still able to be universal because there's still the human experience that we can
Yeah.
see and recognize in that.
I feel like one of the things I love about Ryan Coogler, and I see some of his interviews, like he has a very, I don't know like where in California, but you can tell there's that like kind of California sort of like dialect sound in the way that he sort
Mhm.
of intonates his voice. And I just love the fact that like Ryan Coogler just seems to be very unapologetically himself when he does his
Yeah.
interviews,
Yeah.
when he, you know, is speaking about his work and the art form of his work. And I just love the fact that he doesn't seem to have let and oh, the other thing we didn't talk about was the crazy terms that he was able to negotiate with the studio on Sinners, where he like
Mhm.
he gets full rights back after like 25 years or something crazy like that. Yeah, no, it's like absolutely insane, which good for him. Like this is the kind of
Yeah.
stuff that we
Yeah.
need to see people doing to these big
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
conglomerates.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like that we need more of that in these franchises.
Yeah.
Whereas the push with
Yeah.
AI, the push with
Yeah.
everything we've talked about with surveillance capitalism, I think it flattens the human experience.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what we actually need to be saying is like, no, we don't want more stories that are flattened. We want more unique stories that are
Hmm.
like open for us, for those who are interested in witnessing them to
Yeah.
witness them
Yeah.
and are unapologetic about the position that they are. Like I would not want Ryan Coogler to create a story to pander to me as like a white
Sure.
suburban mom.
Yeah.
Let me see
Yeah.
what the world is like and let me
Right.
do the work of like processing the hard confusing questions that don't make sense to me.
Hmm.
They're like we have the internet in 2025. I can do the work, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Heyo. Anyway, well, now that we've talked about literally everything today, have fun editing this podcast, Megan. I'm glad it's you and not me.
That's why I give myself a long lead time. Oh, listen, let me stop recording. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for
Yeah.
listening to us. We will be back in your ears and in your eyeballs very soon.
Bye.
Bye.